What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It is Team Beer Guts. It is the Tour de Beer during the Tour de France. A different beer every day of the Tour de France. I'm Uncle Frank, the host here, as well as the voice on a podcast called Hop on Two Wheels. That's a podcast that comes out every other week. I'll mention it here and there, and probably put some links in here someplace so that you'll be able to see it. In the background is the brewery that I work at. Today I am recording this at work because I brought my laptop to work the other day so I could keep eyes on the race. I forgot it here. So this morning after the stage, I had to come back to work to get the laptop in order to record. And, well, I might as well just sit down and do this here. I have some beers here, obviously in a brewery, but today's beer is actually not from this current brewery. I'll show you what that is. And also a quick apology about some of the other videos you may have seen that I tried doing with my phone when I didn't have my laptop. I don't know why it does the little sidebar thing. I thought it was if I was in reverse mode of the phone, but I've recorded both ways and it's that way. So hopefully that doesn't take away from your viewing pleasure and you're here just for a little bit of updates of the race and some beer knowledge. Speaking of beer, before we get into stage 9, race ended about 11:30. They went pretty fast, so it was still kind of morning, and then drive out here. If you're out on the West Coast, or who knows where you're watching this from, but I live on the East Coast, so it's morning. Get here, get the laptop. Let's have a morning-style beer. So that today is going to be Coffee Porter from Northwoods Brewing Company in Northwoods, New Hampshire. Northwoods Brewing, this is a 4.7% ABV beer, so for a first beer of the day, not bad at all. It calls it a velvety, smooth, cold brew porter with coffee house aromas, smooth, semi-sweet chocolate, cold conditioned, and locally roasted organic coffee beans. Northwoods is known for doing a lot of local stuff. They try to get some local hops. They try to get local coffee beans or whichever. They make some great beers. It's a great barn that has amazing crowlers. It's a barn that has a restaurant. And then, so there's a brewery and a restaurant. And on the brewery side, they have pizza and they have Creller's donuts. And they are delicious. So that's during the day. And then you can get chicken wings and everything else at their brewery. It's a cool little spot. It's a destination. It's not like you're going to drive by it just because you're going someplace else. I mean, you might be, depending if you're traversing in between the capital of the state and the seacoast or whatever. But it's a cool spot. I know a lot of people that work there. I've always enjoyed their beers. So I figured a coffee porter is in order. While we talk about today's stage, Stage 9 Tour de France. This is a stage I have been looking forward to as well. That's a great looking pour. Little spill. Whoops. Anyway, yes, so stage 9 is the gravel stage. And I always kind of had, I'm like, well, what are they talking about when they say gravel? Because usually with European racing, it's cobbles. It's the cobblestones. And they might call them pave. They definitely call them sectors. So every sector that they were going into. And it was only about 32 kilometers, I believe it was, not 32 miles. I think it was 32 kilometers of the entire course, broken up into sections of gravel. But is it going to be soft, crunchy, champagne gravel like SBT? Is it going to be big, chunky Flint Hills gravel like Emporia, Kansas, and Unbound? Is it going to be sticky dirt gravel, especially if it gets wet, like Mid-South? I have no idea, because I've never ridden out there. So checking some things on Twitter, looking at different profiles, saw something from Tim Johnson. Tim Johnson's a great follow, by the way, on Twitter. You should definitely follow him if you are into cycling. He's a cycling racing champion and commentator now, so, and does posts a lot of things on Twitter. Great follow. Anyway, so he had a post that kind of detailed what it was they were looking at, and I saw some of the gravel. Some of it looked pretty chunky. Some of it was like, holy Emporia, Kansas. Yeah, and they're running these on 30 mil tires. I don't get that. I don't get it, but they do get the oh yeah. They have the ability to run the bigger tires, run them tubeless, run with sealant. But I guess with a lot of it on the road, you don't want to go too big. And from what I understand, a lot of them are running 30 mil tires. I run 28s on my road bike. And I'm just like regular road bike cyclist. If I was taking my road bike onto something like that, I would at least want, I don't know, cyclocross tire size, so 32s to 35s. you could probably run 32s, 35 slicks, maybe. I know that Ted King talks a lot about the tires from Rene Hurst. Maybe that's just not what they can fit into the bikes with the amount of road distance and speeds that they need to carry. And I thought it was odd to run 30 mil tires and then worry about puncturing. Surprisingly, I did not see a lot of punctures, so this is why I'm not a team manager. This beer. Wow, this is delicious. So anyway, the race, a lot of gravel. So I have been looking forward to gravel stage because I like riding gravel. It's really what got me into doing more of the biking things that I do. I was also thinking, okay, a winner is going to be someone who knows how to ride this, knows how to ride in the soft, tight dirt, the soft sand, to be able to get around it. So I was looking for cyclocross guys. I was looking for Matthew Van Der Poel. I was looking for Wout van Aert. And I don't know where MVDP finished up, actually. Wout wasn't too far back from the finish. So there was a small breakaway, and this race broke apart a bunch. Breakaway was like 7 seconds ahead for a little while. About an hour later, they were a half hour ahead. And then I'd say, I think I was doing the dishes or something. I came back. I was making my breakfast, so that was, I don't know, 20 minutes or whatever. I come back, and now they're only 30 seconds ahead. This race was all over the place. One thing that definitely stood out to me was attacks by the favorites. So Tadej Pogacar at one point lays down an attack. Jonas Vingegaard jumps right back on his wheel, and Remco Evenepoel was a little far back on that one. Managed to claw his way back in. That wasn't the first time, though. The first attack of the favorites was actually by Remco. Remco threw down an attack, and it looked like they were going to let him go up the road. And I'm like, this is interesting. Maybe he just wants to stay there. But Remco could have caught the breakaway. And they were at least 30 seconds ahead. He's currently 35 seconds behind in second place, I believe. Tadej's not going to let that happen. So Tadej goes on the attack to be able to catch him. He reels him in. So does Jonas, and they get there. I did find it, so you got 2 attacks. There's 3 of those favorites. Where's Jonas's attack? Jonas is not attacked. I don't think he's attacked all race, all 9 stages. Maybe he's still suffering a little bit. I feel like he's showing really good form, but that he doesn't throw down any attacks, and I don't know if he's saving it. So this is going to be interesting. They're going to go into the rest day. Tomorrow is a rest day. I'm looking forward to the next stages. So anyway, they go through the dirt. Also, to Jonas's credit, he had to switch bikes in a gravel section. He had to get a bike from a teammate, not switch to his backup bike, grab a teammate's bike. So it's not going to be the same. He's riding someone else's bike. I know how difficult that is from my days racing BMX bikes. If we travel to a national and the airline loses your bike, and now I got to borrow somebody's cruiser in order to be able to get in. Or there's a big crash, and now I can't get the part that I need, and I got to borrow a cruiser because I made the qualifiers, and now I got to get into the semi so I can try and get my bike back to make the main or whatever. Riding somebody else's bike is weird, even if it's off by just a little bit. And I did it on a BMX bike that should be enough that I can. It's not millimeters like it is on road bikes. But he rode really, really well, so I do give him credit for that. Anyway, the big breakaway comes down. It was 10, then it was 13 riders, then it was down to 5 or so. One dude takes off, and like I said, this was just this morning, and I don't have notes, so not Jorgensen. Maybe it was Jorgensen. No, it's not Jorgensen. It was someone who's never won a stage, and he was pretty close to getting his first win. Ends up getting caught. I will say that Ben Healy was in that mix from EF, and damn, Ben Healy looked good going into that final sprint. He was on the backside of it. He was in that train. He jumped to the front and looked strong, and then it was like the tank's empty. I felt for him. I thought he was going to pull off that one. Ben Healy's having a great tour, and he couldn't hold on to it, and up comes another Frenchman. So the French are having a really good Tour de France this year. Anthony Torgis, I believe it is, Frenchman, ends up getting the win at the line. And then they were still sprinting after that because the second group to come in had Biniam Garmay. And some are saying Garmay. I'm going to say Garmay. So he kind of sprints in to be able to get some more points, and he's holding on to that green jersey. Normally I talk beer and then the bikes and go back and forth. I don't know, I got excited about the race. So let's talk about this beer real quick, too. I've taken up a lot of the time. Usually these videos are not this long, so hopefully you're sticking with me. Maybe I've teased you into it, so you have to be here. Coffee Porter. Porter, old style beer, dark, not as heavy and thick as a stout, but drinks lighter. It's not going to be bitter. It's not like a black IPA. It's an old world style. And when porters are well done, they're delicious. I don't want to say there's a lot of them that aren't well done because there's not a lot of porters around, unfortunately. But it's not just making a dark beer. It's not just take beer and put dark grain into it. There's a balance to making porter. And there's a lot of history to porter as well. It was what the porters drank. So the workers would have this. A lot of times they thought it was the blend, the three threads as a historical term for porter beer, where they used to blend old ale, new dark ale, like mild, and stout together to create the porter. That's not what they're doing here. Porter now has its own grain bill, so to speak, and your dark malts between, say, black malt, chocolate, roasted. You're going to stay away from a lot of the roasted ones. You're going to go a little bit more towards the chocolate ones. You do have robust porter, a little bit bigger and a little bit more roasty, as opposed to just your brown porter, which will be a little bit lower in alcohol and a little bit smoother on the taste. This definitely has some of that chocolatey to it and a little bit of that nuttiness taste that you may get out of a nut brown ale. Oh, brown ale. Nut brown ale might be the other one that was thrown into that three threads as well. So I feel like this is probably not a robust porter, but a brown porter because of the chocolate notes that are in here. And then it's infused with coffee. And you can do that in different ways. Some people will actually take coffee, add into the beer post-fermentation. Some people will take beans and do a cold brew out of it. And I believe that's what the folks at Northwoods did with this. And make a cold steep, take that steep and add it to it. It's super fresh. It must be done, I'm thinking, way towards the end of fermentation, or maybe even in the cold crush or in the bright tank, because the coffee aromas are boom in your face. This is wonderful. I kind of wish I had drank this during my breakfast. I had French toast for breakfast. So let's talk beer and food pairing. If you're going to have a beer with breakfast, French toast. French toast with maple syrup. When I say maple syrup, I don't mean maple flavored syrup, not corn syrup with buttery flavor and maple flavor, i.e. diacetyl and some other chemical that I probably can't pronounce. No, real maple syrup. Get it locally if you can. I live in New England. I'm lucky. I can get Vermont maple syrup, Maine maple syrup, New Hampshire maple syrup, Rhode Island maple syrup. Poke it out of a tree so the sap comes out and you boil it down and you make real maple syrup. It's delicious. It's actually good for you as well. I'm not going to go on an untapped maple tangent right here. I'm just going to tell you, if you have the fake stuff, throw it away. Use the real stuff. In fact, now I'm going to mention untapped. Get packets of untapped maple and keep it with you when you travel. So if you're in the hotel and you get pancakes and they have the fake maple syrup, you can pull a real maple syrup and you can put it right on your breakfast, and it's delicious. This goes good. This goes really good with real maple syrup with French toast. So today was French toast, little side bit of scrambled eggs, and I had a little bit of smoked salmon on the side as well. European-ish breakfast, whatever. This would go great with a breakfast. So, if you're not having breakfast with your beer, I would pair this with dessert as well. Because it's not very sweet, it's got a great balance to it. Not a bitterness, but a hint of balance. It's coming from the dark malts and some of those hops. Hops are probably noble. They're not bursting out, and the coffee flavors. So let's put this with some type of chocolate cake, with what you're having for your dessert. Something that's sweet. It's got some frosting on the top, and this would cut through it. So the bitterness and that sweetness would balance really well together. That's all I've got for you today. Tomorrow is a rest day, so there is probably not going to be a video tomorrow. And once again, I will try to do a new video every day, recapping the tour and talking about the beer that I'm drinking, a different beer every day of the Tour de France. For little quick snippets and update, be sure to check out the Instagram channel. It is Team Beer Guts, spelled with a Z, just like here, where there'll be pictures and posts, and if I get a bike ride in, we'll throw that up on there as well, in the stories, in the posts. You know how it works. basically, there's a lot of content out there, and I would like to be part of it and part of what you do. And I appreciate you taking me in and spending some time with me. So like, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell so that you don't miss when a new video drops. And I will talk to you on Tuesday because tomorrow's the West Day. Oh, one last thing. I did mention the podcast. I will put a link to the podcast in here in the comments. I'll figure out how to do that. Podcast drops every 2 weeks, so there will be another one coming up on this Thursday, Thirsty Thursday. And I do a podcast about bikes and beers. I will go a little bit more in-depth into styles and a little bit more in-depth into whatever it is the biking thing is. So obviously this will be about a 2-week recap of the Tour de France and a couple of the rides that I've done. Beer styles for this upcoming episode is going to be wheat beer. So American wheat, German wheat, Belgian Wit beer. Kind of break those down, talk about the differences and the similarities. Anyway, that'll go down below. You enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and I will see you next time. I'm going to finish my breakfast beer. Cheers.